Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 1, The Rogue's Introduction. The neon glow of Novaterra's spaceport painted Captain Jax Venn's face in shifting hues of crimson and emerald. He leaned against the railing of the Vagabond, his ship, a battered freighter that had seen better days and far worse nights. The air hummed with a chaotic symphony of alien languages, the hiss of repulsoliths, and the low thrum of 1,000 engines preparing for launch. Novaterra, a melting pot of species and ambitions, was a city built on dreams and fueled by desperation, a perfect hunting ground for a scoundrel like Jax. Jax wasn't your typical space pirate. Oh, he'd certainly plundered his fair share of cargo holds and outmaneuvered more than a few Imperial patrols, but he possessed a certain panache, a roguish charm that disarmed even the most hardened bounty hunters. His dark hair, perpetually wind-tossed, framed a face that could switch from boyish grin to calculating stare in the blink of an eye. Tonight, however, the grin was absent. A knot of unease tightened in his gut. The usual thrill of the spaceport buzzed around him, but it felt muted, like a symphony played on a broken instrument. His boots, worn leather-scarred from countless scrapes and scuffles, tapped a restless rhythm against the metal grating. The Vagabond's crew, a motley bunch he'd gathered over years of daring escapades, were already busy. Lyra Quinn, his ship's mechanic, a whirlwind of grease-stained overalls and fiery green hair, wrestled with a recalcitrant engine. Dax Riven, his strategist, a man whose sharp features seemed permanently etched with a look of calculating intensity, reviewed data streams on a holographic display, his fingers dancing across the controls with practiced ease. Even Talia, their enigmatic navigator, whose origins remained shrouded in mystery, emerged from her quarters, her silver hair glinting faintly in the neon light. She offered Jax a fleeting, almost imperceptible nod before resuming her silent vigil at the helm. Jax's reputation preceded him in Novaterra. He wasn't just a smuggler, he was the smuggler. A name whispered with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. He'd built his reputation not just on skill but on a calculated blend of charm, audacity, and just enough ruthlessness to keep his enemies at bay. Tonight, however, the whispers seemed louder, more insistent. They spoke not of his exploits but of a shadow that had begun to stretch across his carefully constructed world. A sleek, black transport vessel, the kind favored by the galaxy's elite, glided to a stop near the Vagabond. A figure emerged, cloaked and masked, their identity hidden behind a layer of impenetrable anonymity. The figure moved with an unnerving grace, a predator stalking its prey. Jax felt a familiar thrill, a surge of adrenaline that usually accompanied a high-stakes gamble. But this time, it was laced with something else, a prickle of unease that refused to be ignored. The masked figure approached, their footsteps silent on the metal grating. They stopped before Jax, their cloak swirling slightly in the artificial breeze. A gloved hand extended, revealing a datapad. Captain Venn, a modulated voice, devoid of any discernible inflection, echoed from the mask. "I believe we have a proposition for you." The datapad contained details of a mission: retrieve a legendary artifact from a derelict space station orbiting Xylos, a planet swallowed by a nebula known as the Widow's Veil. The reward was astronomical, enough to secure the Vagabond's future for years to come. The risk, however, was equally substantial. The station was rumored to be haunted, not by ghosts, but by something far more sinister. Something that fed on ambition and left only echoes of shattered dreams in its wake. Jax felt a flicker of his old roguish charm return. This was a challenge, a puzzle to be solved. A gamble worth taking. But even as he accepted the datapad, a nagging doubt remained. This mission felt different. It felt personal. The masked figure's anonymity, the sheer audacity of the proposal, and the unsettling whisperings he'd overheard in the spaceport all pointed towards something far more complex than a simple retrieval mission. He sensed that he was playing a game far larger than he'd initially anticipated. A game where the stakes were not just credits, but his own life, and perhaps, the fate of the galaxy itself. The journey ahead promised danger, intrigue, and perhaps, a glimpse into a past he'd tried so hard to forget. But Jax Venn was not a man to back down from a challenge, especially one that held the promise of both immense reward and unimaginable peril. He looked at his crew, each a piece of the intricate puzzle that was his life, and a grim smile touched his lips. The game had begun. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 2, The Mysterious Client. The neon glare of Novaterra's spaceport had faded, replaced by the inky blackness of space punctuated by the distant, cold gleam of stars. Jax Venn stood on the Vagabond's bridge, the hum of the ship's engines a low thrum against the silence of the void. The exhilaration of escape had yet to fully settle, The adrenaline still coursed through him, a lingering echo of the day's events. He'd barely had time to process the encounter that had altered the trajectory of his night, and perhaps, his life. It had begun subtly, a shadow detaching itself from the crowded throng of the spaceport. The figure moved with an unnerving grace, a silent predator in a sea of bustling humanity. Jax, ever attuned to the undercurrents of the city, felt a prickle of unease, an instinct honed over years of navigating the treacherous alleys of Novaterra's underworld. The figure approached, cloaked in darkness, their face completely obscured by a polished obsidian mask that reflected the neon lights like fractured stars. The figure stopped before Jax, their presence a palpable weight in the otherwise empty space. A gloved hand extended, offering a small, intricately carved data chip. Jax hesitated only a moment before accepting it. He knew better than to refuse a mysterious offer, especially one presented with such unnerving confidence. The data chip contained details of the proposition, a mission to retrieve a lost artifact from a derelict space station orbiting the remote planet Xylos. The reward, a sum of credits that would make even the most seasoned space pirate envious. The details were sparse, shrouded in a deliberate veil of mystery. The artifact itself was described only as an object of immense power, its exact nature left deliberately vague. The derelict space station, according to the data, was a graveyard of forgotten expeditions, a place where whispers of strange phenomena and unexplained disappearances clung to the very fabric of space. The risks were considerable, the dangers untold. But the lure of the unknown, the whispered promise of unimaginable power, was too strong to resist. Jax, ever the gambler, felt a familiar thrill course through him. This wasn't just another job. This was an adventure worthy of the legends he'd heard whispered in smoky backrooms and dimly lit cantinas. Back aboard the Vagabond, Jax relayed the mission details to his crew. Lyra, ever practical, voiced her concerns. "Xylos is in the outer rim," she stated, her voice tight with apprehension. "It's a graveyard, Captain. Ships vanish out there without a trace." Dax, his usual calm facade momentarily fractured, added his own assessment. "The data is incomplete, Captain. There are significant gaps in the information. We're walking into a blind spot." Even Talia, usually impassive, expressed a rare flicker of unease. "The energy readings around Xylos are unusual," she murmured, her gaze fixed on the holographic projection of the derelict space station. "There's something unnatural there." Jax listened to their concerns, a familiar knot of unease tightening in his stomach. He knew the risks were substantial. But he also knew that the potential reward, both in credits and in the sheer thrill of the unknown, was too tempting to ignore. He met the worried gazes of his crew, his expression a carefully constructed mask of confidence. "We'll take the job," he declared, his voice firm despite the tremor of excitement that ran beneath it. "Xylos is a gamble, yes, but it's a gamble worth taking. We'll be cautious, we'll be prepared, and we'll come out on top." He saw the lingering doubts in their eyes, but their loyalty and respect for him, however begrudging at times, prevented any outright objections. They were a team, bound together by years of shared adventures and near-death experiences. They would face this challenge together, as they always had. The Vagabond prepared for departure, a silent testament to the adventure that awaited them. The journey to Xylos promised to be fraught with danger, but the allure of the unknown, the whisper of immense power, and the lure of a massive payout had sealed their fate. Jax Venn, the rogue captain, was setting course for a destination shrouded in mystery, and his crew, despite their misgivings, were right behind him. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 3, The Crew of Misfits. The hyperdrive engaged, the Vagabond vanished into the shimmering folds of hyperspace, leaving behind the familiar comforts and dangers of Novaterra. The journey to Xylos was long, a monotonous stretch of time punctuated only by the rhythmic hum of the ship's engines and the occasional crackle of static from the comm system. The relative peace, however, was deceptive. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, a subtle undercurrent that Jax was acutely aware of. His crew, a collection of disparate individuals bound together by circumstance and a shared thirst for adventure, were a study in contrasts. Lyra Quinn, the ship's mechanic, was a whirlwind of frenetic energy. Her small stature belied an incredible strength and a sharp wit that could disarm even the most hardened space pirate. Her hands, perpetually stained with grease and oil, moved with an almost balletic grace as she repaired and maintained the vagabond's aging systems. She was fiercely loyal to Jax, but her loyalty was tempered by a healthy dose of skepticism, a pragmatic approach that kept her grounded amidst the chaos of their adventures. She often clashed with Dax, her practical nature a stark contrast to his theoretical musings. Jax Venn, the strategist, was the antithesis of Lyra. Tall and lean, with sharp, angular features and eyes that seemed to pierce through deception, he was a master of data analysis and tactical planning. His mind was a labyrinth of intricate strategies and contingency plans, a fortress of logic against the unpredictable nature of space. He possessed a quiet intensity, a calm that bordered on unnerving, and while he respected Jax's leadership, he wasn't afraid to challenge his decisions, often pointing out flaws in his plans with a cold, dispassionate logic that could be both infuriating and invaluable. Talia, the navigator, remained an enigma. Her past was shrouded in mystery, her origins unknown. Her silver hair, often pulled back in a severe style, framed a face that was both beautiful and inscrutable. She possessed a preternatural sense of direction, an uncanny ability to navigate the treacherous currents of hyperspace with an almost supernatural precision. She rarely spoke, her communication often limited to concise reports and cryptic observations. Her silence, however, spoke volumes, hinting at a past filled with secrets and a present shrouded in an almost impenetrable reserve. The dynamic between them was a delicate balance of trust and friction. Lyra and Dax frequently clashed, their contrasting personalities creating a constant low hum of tension. Talia remained aloof, observing them all with a detached curiosity. Jax, the captain, navigated this intricate web of personalities with a practiced ease, his charm and leadership skills smoothing over the rough edges, preventing the simmering tensions from boiling over into open conflict. He understood that their differences were their strength, a diversity of skills and perspectives that gave them an edge in the dangerous world they inhabited. But the mission to Xylos threatened to disrupt this uneasy equilibrium. The derelict space station, a symbol of forgotten tragedies and unanswered questions, cast a long shadow over their journey, fueling the anxieties that already simmered beneath the surface. The closer they got to Xylos, the more palpable the tension became, a silent acknowledgement of the risks they were about to face. The seemingly mundane tasks of maintaining the ship and charting their course were imbued with a new urgency, a sense of foreboding that hung heavy in the air. The Vagabond, a vessel of adventures past, was now carrying them towards an unknown future, a future that promised both immense reward and potentially catastrophic failure. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 4. Into the Abyss. The derelict space station, a skeletal monument to forgotten ambitions, loomed before them like a tombstone in the vast expanse of space. Xylos itself was a bleak, inhospitable world, a barren rock scarred by ancient cataclysms. But it was the station, a decaying behemoth of metal and rust, that held their attention, a silent testament to the dangers that lay ahead. Its once gleaming hull was now pockmarked with craters and scarred by the relentless erosion of time and space. Sections were missing entirely, gaping wounds in its metallic body, revealing the dark void beyond. As the Vagabond approached, the station's ominous silence was broken only by the occasional groan of stressed metal and the faint crackle of static interference. The ship's sensors picked up faint energy signatures, erratic and unpredictable, hinting at something unsettling within the station's decaying structure. Even Lyra, usually unflappable, felt a prickle of unease. Dax, ever the pragmatist, meticulously analyzed the sensor data, his expression grim as he noted the inconsistencies and anomalies. Talia, her usual impassivity replaced by a subtle tension, adjusted the ship's course, navigating the treacherous debris fields surrounding the station with practiced precision. Jax, however, felt a strange mixture of excitement and apprehension. The risks were undeniable, but the potential reward, the legendary artifact, was too alluring to ignore. He had to admit, a part of him relished the danger, the thrill of venturing into the unknown. He'd faced down Imperial patrols, outwitted cunning smugglers, and escaped from more precarious situations than he cared to remember. But this felt different. This wasn't just another daring heist. This was a plunge into the abyss, a descent into the heart of a forgotten nightmare. The Vagabond docked with the station's decaying docking bay, a process fraught with tension. The bay's doors, rusted and groaning, opened with a shriek of protesting metal, revealing a cavernous interior swallowed by an oppressive darkness. The airlock hissed open, releasing a wave of stale, recycled air, thick with the metallic tang of rust and the faint, unsettling scent of decay. The first step into the station was a plunge into a world of shadows and silence, a world where the past clung to the present like a shroud. The station's interior was a labyrinth of crumbling corridors and decaying chambers, a maze of rusted metal and shattered equipment. Dust motes danced in the weak beams of their flashlights, illuminating fragments of a forgotten civilization. They found remnants of previous expeditions, shattered equipment, scattered datapads, and skeletal remains, stark reminders of the dangers this place held. The air was thick with a sense of abandonment, a palpable feeling of loss and despair. Each step forward felt like an intrusion into a sacred space, a violation of a silent, mournful history. The deeper they ventured, the more unsettling the environment became. Strange energy fluctuations pulsed through the station, causing their equipment to malfunction. Whispers, barely audible, seemed to echo from the darkness, sending shivers down their spines. They were not alone. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 5, Ghosts of the Past. The derelict space station was a labyrinth of decaying corridors and shattered dreams, a mausoleum of forgotten technology and lost lives. As Jax and his crew delved deeper into its decaying heart, the unsettling atmosphere intensified. Strange energy fluctuations pulsed through the station, causing their equipment to malfunction and their nerves to fray. Whispers, barely audible, seemed to echo from the darkness, playing tricks on their minds. They were not alone. Then they found her. Kayla Thorne. Jax froze, his breath catching in his throat. She stood silhouetted in a shattered doorway, her auburn hair a fiery contrast to the station's oppressive darkness. The years had etched lines onto her face, adding a depth to her already striking features. But her eyes, those piercing emerald eyes that had once held a spark of affection, now burned with cold intensity, reflecting the harsh light of their flashlights. She held a weapon, its sleek lines glinting menacingly in the dim light, a stark reminder of the danger she posed. The air crackled with unspoken tension, a silent battle of wills between two people bound by a complex history. Jax and Kayla had once shared a passionate, tumultuous relationship, a whirlwind romance fueled by adventure and danger. But their paths had diverged, their bond shattered by betrayal and bitter resentment. Now, reunited in this desolate graveyard of a space station, the past threatened to engulf them once more. Jax Venn, Kayla said, her voice a low, dangerous purr. Fancy meeting you here. There was no warmth in her tone, no hint of the affection they had once shared. Only cold calculation, a predatory gleam in her eyes. Kayla, Jax replied, his voice equally devoid of warmth. He kept his hand close to his own weapon, his senses on high alert. He knew Kayla. He knew her ruthlessness, her cunning, her unwavering ambition. She was a formidable opponent, and he wouldn't underestimate her. I've been expecting you, she continued, her gaze sweeping over his crew. I've been tracking your movements for some time. I'll admit, I was surprised to find you here, on my trail. The revelation hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. Kayla was also searching for the artifact. The mission, once a lucrative job, had suddenly become a deadly game of cat and mouse, a desperate race against time and a formidable adversary. The uneasy truce that had held the crew together threatened to shatter. The quest for the artifact had become a personal vendetta, a collision course between two determined souls locked in a bitter rivalry. The silence stretched, punctuated only by the low hum of their life support systems and the distant drip of condensation. The air hung thick with anticipation, the tension palpable enough to cut with a knife. Jax knew that this was just the beginning. The true battle was about to commence. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 6, The Artifact's Embrace. The confrontation with Kayla had been swift and brutal, a clash of wills and weaponry that left the corridor littered with sparking debris and shattered hopes of a peaceful resolution. Kayla, as expected, proved to be a formidable opponent, her skills honed to a razor's edge. Jax, however, was no slouch, Years of navigating the treacherous underbelly of the galaxy had made him a seasoned combatant. The fight had ended in a stalemate, a tense standoff that left both sides wounded but unwilling to yield. They agreed to an uneasy truce, a temporary cessation of hostilities born out of mutual exhaustion and a shared awareness of the greater dangers lurking within the derelict station. The artifact, it seemed, was drawing them together, a powerful magnet that defied their animosity. They pressed on, their paths now intertwined, forced into an uneasy alliance by the looming threat of the unknown. Deeper within the station, they discovered a vast chamber, its walls adorned with strange, alien symbols that pulsed with a faint, ethereal light. At the center of the chamber, resting on a pedestal of obsidian, lay the artifact. It was unlike anything Jax had ever seen, a sphere of shimmering energy that seemed to hum with a power both terrifying and alluring. Its surface shifted and changed, displaying images of swirling nebulae, distant galaxies, and ancient, forgotten civilizations. As they approached the artifact, the energy within the chamber intensified. The air crackled with power, the very floor vibrating beneath their feet. Strange visions flickered before their eyes, glimpses of futures both glorious and terrifying. The artifact seemed to be testing them, probing their minds, their wills. It was not merely an object. It was a sentient being, a powerful entity that seemed to possess a consciousness of its own. Lyra, ever the pragmatist, expressed concerns about the artifact's power. Dax, using his analytical skills, attempted to decipher the alien symbols adorning the chamber walls, hoping to gain some understanding of the artifact's nature and purpose. Talia, sensing the artifact's powerful energy, felt a strange pull, a sense of connection that both intrigued and unsettled her. Even Kayla, her usual composure shaken, felt the artifact's immense power, a force that seemed to transcend the boundaries of space and time. The artifact pulsed, its energy intensifying. It seemed to be choosing, selecting, reaching out to one of them. Which one would it choose? What would happen next? The answer, Jax knew, would determine not only their fate, but the fate of the galaxy itself. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 7, The Artifact's Choice. The artifact pulsed again, its ethereal glow intensifying, bathing the chamber in an otherworldly light. The air crackled with energy, the very fabric of reality seeming to bend and warp around the mysterious sphere. Each member of the assembled group felt its power, a tangible force that pressed against their minds, their bodies, their very souls. It was a test, a selection process, and the tension in the chamber was palpable, thick enough to cut with a laser. Jax, despite his years of experience navigating dangerous situations, felt a primal fear, a deep-seated unease that went beyond simple apprehension. This was something ancient, something powerful, something that transcended his understanding of the universe. He looked to his crew, their faces etched with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Lyra clutched a wrench, her knuckles white, Dax's eyes were wide with a mixture of fascination and fear, and Talia's usually impassive features were contorted with tension. Even Kayla, the hardened bounty hunter, seemed unsettled, her usual bravado replaced with a cautious wariness. Then, the artifact chose. A beam of pure energy shot out from the sphere, striking Jax directly in the chest. He gasped, a sharp intake of breath, as the energy surged through him, washing over him like a tidal wave. He felt a searing pain, a burning sensation that spread through his body, followed by a rush of information, a torrent of knowledge that overwhelmed his senses. Images flashed before his eyes, galaxies forming, civilizations rising and falling, the very history of the universe unfolding before him. He stumbled back, his knees buckling, the weight of the knowledge almost too much to bear. When the energy subsided, Jax was different. His eyes glowed with an inner light, his senses heightened, his mind sharper than ever before. He felt a power coursing through him, a connection to the artifact, a sense of understanding that transcended the limitations of his mortal form. He had been chosen, touched by the artifact's power, granted access to knowledge beyond human comprehension. But what would he do with this power? What would be the consequences of his newfound abilities? The artifact, having made its choice, fell silent. The energy in the chamber dissipated, leaving behind an unsettling quiet. Jax looked at his crew, at Kayla, their faces mirroring his own mixture of awe and uncertainty. The journey had just begun, and the path ahead was shrouded in mystery, fraught with danger, and filled with the potential for both unimaginable power and catastrophic destruction. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 8. Betrayal. The silence following the artifact's selection was heavy, pregnant with unspoken tension. Jax, still reeling from the artifact's power surge, felt the weight of responsibility settle upon him, a crushing burden of knowledge and potential. He looked to his crew, searching their faces for answers, for reassurance, for anything that could provide a sense of stability in this chaotic new reality. But what he found was not unity, but the chilling seeds of discord. The betrayal began subtly, a flicker of doubt in Dax's eyes, a subtle shift in his posture, a barely perceptible hesitation in his movements. Dax, the strategist, the man who had always seemed so calm, so collected, so utterly logical, now seemed different. His usual sharp intensity was replaced by a veiled uncertainty, a guardedness that Jax found deeply unsettling. It was a small thing, almost imperceptible, but Jax's instincts, honed over years of navigating the treacherous currents of the galaxy, screamed a warning. The truth unfurled slowly, like a poisonous vine creeping through the cracks in their fragile alliance. It emerged in hushed conversations, in stolen glances, in the subtle manipulation of information. Dax, it turned out, had a hidden agenda, a secret plan that had been unfolding alongside their mission to retrieve the artifact. He hadn't been working with them, he had been using them. His loyalty, it seemed, lay not with Jax or the crew, but with a shadowy organization known only as the Syndicate, a group whose motivations remained shrouded in mystery but whose influence stretched across the galaxy like a malevolent web. The revelation shattered the fragile unity of the crew. Lyra, fiercely loyal to Jax, was furious, her trust in Dax shattered beyond repair. Talia, ever enigmatic, remained silent, her expression unreadable, her allegiances unclear. Even Kayla, despite her own self-serving motives, seemed disturbed by Dax's treachery, a flicker of something akin to respect momentarily crossing her hardened features before being replaced by her usual cold calculation. Jax, however, felt a different emotion entirely, a profound sense of betrayal. He had trusted Dax, had relied on his strategic acumen, had considered him a friend. This betrayal was a personal blow, a wound that cut deeper than any physical injury. He was faced with a difficult choice: confront Dax directly, risking a violent confrontation that could further destabilize the already fragile situation, or attempt to outmaneuver him, a risky gamble that could leave them vulnerable to both Dax and any external threats. The situation was further complicated by the arrival of a Syndicate ship, a sleek, menacing vessel that materialized out of hyperspace, its presence a stark reminder of the power and reach of Dax's new allies. The Syndicate's arrival brought with it a new layer of danger, a new set of challenges that forced Jax to reevaluate his strategy, to reconsider his alliances, and to make some difficult, potentially life-altering decisions. The artifact, already a source of immense power, now loomed as a prize both desirable and potentially deadly. The fate of the crew, and perhaps the galaxy itself, hung precariously in the balance. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 9. The Allure of Power. The artifact pulsed with a malevolent energy, its ethereal glow casting long, dancing shadows across the derelict station's decaying walls. Jax, still grappling with the torrent of knowledge it had unleashed upon him, felt its insidious influence, a seductive whisper promising unimaginable power, a seductive allure that threatened to corrupt his very soul. He understood now. The artifact wasn't merely a powerful object. It was a sentient entity, a cosmic being of immense power, capable of shaping realities and twisting destinies. And it was hungry. The knowledge the artifact had imparted wasn't just historical data. It was a blueprint for manipulation, a guide to controlling the very fabric of existence. Jax saw visions of galaxies bending to its will, civilizations rising and falling at its whim, the universe itself reshaped according to its desires. The temptation was overwhelming, a siren song promising godlike power, a seductive whisper promising dominion over all creation. But with that power came a terrifying responsibility, a chilling awareness of the potential for destruction. Kayla, ever perceptive, sensed the internal struggle raging within Jax. She approached him, her emerald eyes gleaming with a predatory intensity. She offered him a deal, a tempting proposition that played upon his newly acquired knowledge and his burgeoning ambition. She proposed an alliance, a partnership based on mutual gain, a collaboration that would allow them to harness the artifact's power for their own ends. She spoke of galactic empires, of untold riches, of a future where they would rule supreme. Her offer was a poisoned chalice, a tempting invitation to embrace the darkness. The allure of power was a potent force, a seductive whisper that echoed in the hearts of each crew member. Lyra, ever pragmatic, struggled with the moral implications of wielding such a destructive force. Her loyalty to Jax remained unshaken, but she couldn't ignore the potential for catastrophe. Dax, freed from the Syndicate's control after his betrayal, wrestled with his own ambition, his desire for power battling with a newfound sense of guilt and remorse. Talia, ever enigmatic, remained silent, her true intentions still shrouded in mystery, her gaze fixed upon the artifact, her expression unreadable. The artifact itself seemed to sense their internal conflicts, its power fluctuating, its glow intensifying and dimming as if responding to their emotional turmoil. It was a test, a trial of wills, a cosmic game of chess with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. Jax, burdened by the weight of his newfound knowledge and the conflicting desires of his crew, found himself at a crossroads. He had to make a choice, a decision that would determine not only his own fate but the destiny of all creation. Would he succumb to the artifact's seductive allure, embracing its power and the potential for unimaginable dominion? Or would he resist the temptation, choosing instead to protect the galaxy from the very force he now understood? The answer, he realized, lay not within the artifact itself, but within his own heart. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 10, A Race Against Time. The decision had been made. Jax, despite the artifact's seductive whisper, had chosen to resist its power, to protect the galaxy from its potential for destruction. He knew the risks. He knew the odds were stacked against him. But he also knew that the potential consequences of failure were too catastrophic to contemplate. With his remaining loyal crew, Lyra, Talia, and a surprisingly repentant Dax, he embarked on a desperate race against time, a perilous journey to prevent the artifact from falling into the wrong hands. Their escape from the derelict space station was fraught with peril. The station itself seemed to be fighting back, its decaying systems malfunctioning in unpredictable ways, creating a maze of traps and obstacles designed to thwart their escape. Automated defense systems, long dormant, sprang to life, unleashing a barrage of lasers and energy blasts. The station's decaying structure threatened to collapse around them at any moment, a crumbling tomb intent on claiming them as its final victims. But Jax's crew was resourceful, their skills honed by years of navigating treacherous situations. Lyra's mechanical prowess proved invaluable, allowing them to bypass or disable many of the station's defenses. Talia's navigational expertise guided them through the labyrinthine corridors, avoiding deadly traps and navigating the treacherous debris fields. Even Dax, burdened by guilt and a desire for redemption, contributed his strategic acumen, guiding them through the station's intricate pathways and anticipating the enemy's moves. Their escape, however, was not without casualties. They encountered other factions vying for control of the artifact, mercenaries, smugglers, and representatives of powerful galactic organizations. Each encounter was a brutal battle, a desperate struggle for survival. Lasers crisscrossed the corridors, explosions rocked the station's decaying structure, and the air filled with the acrid smell of burning metal and ozone. They fought with a ferocity born of desperation, their survival hinging on their combined skills and unwavering determination. The final confrontation took place in the station's central control room, a shattered chamber overlooking the desolate landscape of Xylos. They faced a formidable force, a heavily armed contingent of the Syndicate, led by a ruthless commander known only as the Overseer. The Overseer, a towering figure cloaked in shadow, had been tracking them, waiting for the opportune moment to seize the artifact. The battle was fierce, a chaotic clash of weapons and wills, a desperate struggle for control of the artifact and the fate of the galaxy. The odds were against them, but Jax and his crew fought with the courage of the desperate. Lyra unleashed a torrent of firepower from her customized blaster, her movements precise and deadly. Talia used her unique abilities to disrupt the enemy's systems, creating openings for Jax and Dax to exploit. Dax, proving his redemption, utilized his tactical skills to outmaneuver the Syndicate forces, turning their own strategies against them. Jax, fueled by the artifact's power and his unwavering resolve, led the charge, his every move precise and deadly. The battle raged, a whirlwind of energy blasts and flying debris. In the end, it was a close call. They managed to defeat the Syndicate forces, but not without paying a heavy price. The station was collapsing around them, its final moments mirroring the destruction they had narrowly averted. With the artifact secured, Jax and his remaining crew made their escape, leaving behind the ruins of a forgotten space station and the memory of a battle that had decided the fate of the galaxy. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 11. The Final Confrontation. The escape from the collapsing space station had been harrowing, a desperate flight from a crumbling tomb. But the artifact's power, now fully understood, had revealed a chilling truth: their journey was far from over. The artifact wasn't merely a weapon. It was a key, a cosmic lock to a power beyond comprehension. And Kayla, ever the enigmatic wild card, held the other half of the equation. Jax, burdened by the weight of his newfound knowledge and the responsibility it entailed, knew he had to confront Kayla. Their past, a complex tapestry of love, betrayal, and shared adventures, had led them to this point, a final showdown that would determine not only their fates but the destiny of the universe. He tracked her to a remote nebula, a swirling vortex of gas and dust, a fitting backdrop for their final confrontation. The nebula's ethereal beauty masked a hidden danger. Kayla had prepared for their encounter, setting a trap designed to exploit Jax's newfound abilities and his vulnerabilities. She had anticipated his every move, prepared for his every strategy. The battle was a dance of death, a dizzying ballet of lasers, energy blasts, and hand-to-hand combat, set against the stunning backdrop of the nebula's swirling gases. Jax's enhanced senses, honed by the artifact's power, allowed him to anticipate Kayla's movements, to react with superhuman speed and precision. But Kayla was no less formidable, her skills honed to a razor's edge, her fighting style a deadly blend of grace and brutality. Their battle was a reflection of their intertwined destinies, a clash of wills and ideologies, a final reckoning between two souls bound by a complex history. As the battle raged, the true nature of the artifact was unveiled. It wasn't a weapon of destruction, as Jax had initially feared, but a cosmic key, a gateway to a realm of unimaginable power. And Kayla, it turned out, wasn't simply seeking to control it. She was seeking to unlock its potential, to use its power to reshape the universe according to her own vision. Her vision, however, was not one of benevolent rule but of absolute control, a chilling ambition to dominate all of creation. Jax found himself facing a moral dilemma of cosmic proportions. He could destroy the artifact, preventing Kayla from unleashing its power but also forfeiting the potential for good it held. Or he could try to control it, to harness its potential for positive change, but risk unleashing its destructive capabilities. The choice was his, a burden of responsibility that weighed heavily on his shoulders. The final confrontation was not just a physical battle. It was a battle of wills, a clash of ideologies, a struggle for the very soul of the universe. Jax had to make a choice, a decision that would determine the fate of all creation. The outcome hung in the balance, a precarious equilibrium between creation and destruction. The choice, and the consequences, were his alone to bear. Stars of the Scoundrel. Chapter 12. Redemption and New Beginnings. The nebula, once a swirling canvas of cosmic chaos, now stood silent, a stark testament to the battle that had raged within its heart. Jax, battered but unbroken, stood amidst the debris, the echoes of the conflict still ringing in his ears. The artifact, its power spent, lay inert, its malevolent hum replaced by a quiet stillness. Kayla was gone, her ambition extinguished, her dreams shattered. The universe, for now, was safe. But the cost had been high. The weight of his journey pressed heavily upon Jax. He had faced down galactic empires, outwitted cunning smugglers, and stared into the abyss of cosmic power. He had tasted the allure of godlike abilities, felt the seductive whisper of ultimate control, and ultimately resisted the temptation. He had survived, but at a cost. The scars, both physical and emotional, served as a grim reminder of the price of ambition, a testament to the fragility of hope in the face of overwhelming power. He looked to his remaining crew, their faces etched with the weariness of battle, their eyes reflecting the shared trauma and the lingering uncertainty of the future. Lyra, her usual fiery spirit tempered by the events of the past few weeks, found solace in the quiet hum of her tools, already sketching plans for a new ship, a vessel better suited to their ever-evolving adventures. Talia, ever enigmatic, remained composed, her gaze fixed on the distant stars, her expression hinting at unseen plans, at ambitions yet to be realized. Dax, burdened by guilt and a desire for redemption, sought to prove his loyalty, his actions speaking louder than words. He had found a measure of peace in the service of others, his technical skills now dedicated to repairing and rebuilding, to healing the wounds left by the battle. The artifact's influence lingered, a subtle shift in the balance of the galaxy. The cosmic currents, once turbulent, now flowed with a newfound calm, a subtle shift towards balance. The universe, though scarred by the conflict, had survived. And as Jax looked out upon the nebula, he felt a sense of peace, a quiet acceptance of his role in the grand scheme of things. He had faced the darkness, wrestled with his own demons, and emerged victorious, but not unscathed. His journey had taught him the true meaning of power, not as a tool of domination but as a responsibility, a burden to be shouldered with humility and wisdom. He had learned that true strength lay not in the ability to control others but in the capacity for self-control, in the courage to resist temptation, in the unwavering commitment to justice and compassion. Jax, along with his loyal crew, set course for new horizons, leaving the nebula behind. Their ship, a vessel of hope and resilience, cut through the star-strewn void, carrying them towards an uncertain future. The galaxy, however, was no longer the same. The artifact's influence, though subtle, had shifted the cosmic balance, paving the way for new adventures, new challenges, and new possibilities. The journey had ended, but a new chapter was just beginning. Their tale, however, was far from over. And so, the saga of Jax Venn and the stars of the Scoundrel concludes, for now. Their journey through the treacherous depths of space, their battles against overwhelming odds, and their ultimate triumph over the artifact's seductive power have left an indelible mark on the galaxy. But the universe is vast, and countless adventures still await. Jax and his crew have found a measure of peace, but the cosmos holds many more secrets, many more challenges, and many more opportunities for heroism, and perhaps a little more scoundrelism. If you enjoyed this video book adaptation of Stars of the Scoundrel, and you'd like to see Jax and his crew embark on new adventures in a sequel, then be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Let us know in the comments what you'd like to see in a sequel, perhaps a new artifact, a new enemy, or a whole new galaxy to explore. Your feedback helps us to bring you more exciting stories.